the program. Let's welcome Lady Esther as usual, the fine-looking lady in the studio. We're going to be covering quite a big area. Actually, we're going to try and get through as much as we can. The subject area today is finance in marriage. How you manage all the financial aspects in your marriage. Who deals with what part of the finance in the house, in the family planning, and all the financial aspects. Lady Esther, we've got some new listeners in today. Could you kindly introduce yourself again so that people can hear the voice of yours?
Dear listeners, I'm happy to be with you once again, and I hope you're going to benefit from what we're doing. Also known as Esther Ogusukumedu, and marriage is an area that I'm very interested in because after marrying for 3 years.
You have to repeat.
You have to repeat. Apologies for that. It's my fault. Mrs. Brober, Mrs. Esther Brober, can you introduce yourself again, Lady Esther, aka Lady Esther?
Hello, dear listeners. I'm very happy to be with you once again. Pleasure sharing our experiences and offering some good advice for those of you who are entering into marriage or those already in and having some difficulties. I've been married for 33 years. So what I'm sharing with you, most of them is from my own personal. I've also learned and heard from other people. So having been through certain things, I don't want any listener to be struggling. Older person is all about. So I hope you enjoy the program and you contribute.
Oh, that is wonderful. The fact that you don't, you've been through marriage, so but it can be wonderful as we've spoken about over the 2 weeks that we've been presenting the show, and it's great thinking about all of us out there here to talk about experiences, knowledge, and to help those of us that are about to get married and those people that are newly married and those people that are already married but would need some advice. Just to recap, last week on Monday, we talked about premarital understanding involving finance. We also talked about household, who does the housework, and how husbands and wives can work together and to bring less stress in the home by helping each other. We also talked about relationships and relatives. This area we're going to touch a bit on today, if not today, next week, how we can have really good relationships with our parents in the family. We also talked about career and education plans. We hope to cover this topic today, but today our main focus is finance marriage. Lady Esther, planning in the early stages of marriage, would you say is in terms of talking about child savings, university savings, savings for holidays? Would you say that it's important and it will help to reduce financial pressure? What are the structures that newlyweds should be putting in place? And even if you've been married for many years and you don't have this kind of skill, you can help us or help people out there to manage in their homes.
Thanks, GiGi. Dear listeners, to start with those who are preparing to get married or newlyweds, what I want to say is that the two of you are coming into this relationship with certain skills. And oftentimes there will be one who is maybe very good with managing money and the other who is not. It's important that the one who has a flair with managing money is given that responsibility to look after the finances of the household. Because, I mean, there are some people, because of the nature of their education or trade or upbringing, they are very, very good at saving money, they are making choices when it comes to money, and it's important that that skill is used in a relationship. Because when you start off with mistakes in finances, it's going to be something that's going to be ahead of you, and it's going to really limit you in so many different ways. So first of all, who has got the skill in managing money? It's important that that one is identified. Two, the ideal situation is that the two of you put your finance together. If the whole thing is that the marriage is for the two of you, and oftentimes when we enter into, you see the couple, the individuals having their own financial management, financial responsibilities outside of the marriage, and this is where the confusion is. So the ideal situation where there is good understanding is that the two of you bring your finances to the table and you manage it as one.
That's just wonderful. That the two people should have their fund, their salary going into one account. I may be jumping ahead of you, but there are stories where money.
Yes.
So, and you always do research before coming to the studio, and some of the complaints or the disappointments were that the salary are joint and one spouse would just go and spend the whole money without telling the other. How do we avoid that?
This is where the issue of trust. You should, obviously before you come into that kind of agreement with your spouse, you should have that absolute trust that this person is to spend the money anyhow, or this person is not manipulating the situation to their own benefit. And oftentimes that is sad stories we hear. One person have to say, okay, this is what we're going to do. The next thing they know, the other person is doing their own things using the money. And a lot of stories come, and therefore even people become very, very poor, cannot trust their spouse because of the stories that they've heard. But in real sense, that's what it's supposed to be. If it cannot be, mostly because, especially if you meet your partner abroad, they have been sent here for a mission by their parents, by their family, and then you meet. There's the mission that they will go back, they will send some money back home to do something for the family. And so it's the other partner. And here, when you say come and join your money together, kind of resistance, because each one is afraid, if I put my money on the table, I will not be able to do this at home for my parents, for my nephew, or whatever, or for whatever. And it's important that all things come into the open. Another point is why when you come together, one of you, or even both of you, might be carrying a big debt.
Yeah.
Who is going to pay this debt? Instead of hiding it, it's important that you bring that into the open. This is my situation. This is our situation. How are we going to meet this debt? And I can assure you, the young couple that are starting out there, if you can avoid that, avoid it as you avoid Ebola plague. Because the Western world is money, spending money, borrowing. That's how the rich people make their money. You become a slave to them. And for those of you who are Christian, the Bible has told us, do not borrow, because God borrowing is going to do. You are going to be a slave forever to the borrower. When the credit cards you are being tempted with all these credit cards and whatnot, interest-free credit and all that, it's all tempting. Once you get into it, we all know how difficult it is to get out of it. And that's where the strain comes. Your income is small, is not enough to meet the household expenses, to meet the demands from back at home, especially your parents. So it's very important that we take responsibility for our parents when we come here. And when the stress they are coming in, you realize that you are not able to meet your expenses, then confusion starts coming in. So the most important thing is avoid borrowing as much as you can.
I agree, but as you know, this show is about being real. There are many people in debt. I mean, and the reason why they are in debt is that many people have lost their jobs. Just basically climbed upon them without it being their fault.
Climax Radio.
So now they're in debt. If you're a couple, you're about to get married, like you rightly say, be honest with your spouse that, listen, this is the situation I'm in, and then there are people out their bureau, and people that can help. So assuming that people are already married and they've come into a marriage with debt, that they shouldn't worry. There are bodies out there that can help them. The point again comes to the point about trust. You trust your spouse, but still, human beings, we can't always predict a person can behave. Depends on what's going on in their mind, whether they're husband or wife. Assuming that the trust has been broken, or shall we wind back and talk about how to avoid turning to an account and without somebody taking out the money? Surely there are places in place. For example, you both have to have your own signature, or some places in a bank you can make arrangement where a spouse cannot take out money without the other person knowing. Has that been your experience? I mean, is that another that you would give? Because you're talking about trust, but people often break trust. And I know out of my research, many spouses do not want to have joint accounts, and there are many, only a few.
Yeah, very, very true.
So I just wanted to talk about the advantage of having a joint account, and let's be real here, that I've just spoken of that.
I mean, so the advantage is that if the two of you are making decisions about what you are spending, eventually you will spend them that are important, things that are within the that are affordable for the family, and therefore there won't be that pressure from elsewhere. But as we just said, there are some partners who might be so controlling in that way that they will not allow, decision making.
Yeah.
One person might not even be able to put in what they want when the one who dominates and make decisions, which eventually might backfire on all of you. So it's not an easy thing, but it all goes back to knowing who you are marrying, what are your values, what are your plans, and it's important that you plan. Something that we don't often do is planning what do we want to achieve in the next year, in the next 2 years, in the next 3 years. You need to be able to sit down and set goals for yourselves. And these goals, you break it down by how you're going to meet the goals. And that is how each one of you can monitor yourselves. If you set a goal that in the next 6 months we want to save, let's say, and you tell yourself in 3 months we're going to assess where we are, and the 3 months come, you sit down and you haven't saved £1,000. Fine, you haven't made it £500, which is half of what you were expected to be putting down. You then come back and say, what happened? How did we lose out on our saving plan? And when you sit and break it down, you'll be able to find out where the money is going.
Yes.
And if it's one person who is mismanaging, it's very early on, you are able to put a stop to it and regroup and find out what is going wrong here. How are we going to really be on schedule of what we plan to do? Some of us, especially in this country where the pressure to spend is always there, the moment you get paid, something pushes you to go out there, especially as women. The moment you just buy, and some of us have done it. That is a long. I bought it.
Yes.
I know it because according to him, I don't have money. Then when it comes to buying new shoes, I'm able to buy. How did I do it? Maybe using my credit card. I'm in debt. Help me to pay my debt.
Yes.
It's not going to be a very, very peaceful relationship. There's always going to be that strain if that agreement is established.
So we need to be. I hear what you're saying. I'm being realistic again. This joint saving thing is a bone of contention in people. So out of my research, I came up with other ways that married couples can decide. And one of it was going on holiday. You can open an account where you certain amount for holiday money, a certain amount, other account for the children. Because when it's joint,
Climax Radio.
maybe it's not possible for the honesty to maybe 10 years down the line, I don't know what will happen. You know, human beings, things can go wrong, and a spouse can end up taking out the money for whatever reason. So from this research that I've done, they can open accounts, one for university savings. So out of each, my account, my husband's account, £50 is going out. Account for holiday, account, even open an account for sending money back home, because you know, as Africans and Asians, so those of us that are outside the in society, we need to send money back home. Would you agree to this structure? Bearing in mind that if both the spouses have got money coming into work, I'll get my mother to call in one day about her own experience. I'm sure she's laughing right now. Mommy, so you have to call in one day about your own experience that you talk to me about.
So we're talking here is the ideal situation, and also from our own experience where we've done things wrong, and we don't want the young people out there to repeat. This is where our experiences are coming in. So if the understanding is there, if the love is there, what we're saying is it's important that you know what is coming into the house. My husband and my wife is earning this month. This is the household expense. This is how we are going to make it. So you might have a joint account where all the direct debits are set. Yes. So at the end of the month, if you choose to have your salary going into separate accounts, at the end of the month, I know you are earning 30,000. Right. You know I'm earning 30,000. We know that these are household expenses. At the end of the month, I expect you to put £1,000 into our joint account. You put 1,000 into that joint account to meet the expenses. What is left, we save. So as you're saying, you should have an account for savings. Yes. Savings towards children education. If you don't trust each other, you send to the children's names. Yes. The names of the, so that none of you has got access to that money. And then I think it's important that, for me, I like the freedom of not having to go to my husband, I want money. So it's important that maybe you agree that, okay, at the end of the month, you spend this amount for yourself, for your personal thing, that how much you spend, the money, you have this, you have that. But from my experience, what I learned as a woman is that didn't work for me. Because as a woman who is running miscellaneous expenses, you are the one who comes across this in all the time. Yes. So eventually, you realize that your money that's supposed to be yours is going to miscellaneous expenses. Your husband to understand that actually we are supposed to be spending 2,000 a month, and this I've spent 2,005. Oh well, as far as I'm concerned, this is how much we're spending with their money. So the women have to be very, very careful how they spend miscellaneously, because that is another source of money draining out of the family. Yes. You wouldn't notice that you are really draining money, buying bits and bits here and there. It's important that miscellaneous spending is well checked, because that's another source of draining the house's finance. And I think the other way is that I know from some of my sets, some couples will agree to pay the mortgage, some will agree to pay electricity, the gas, and so those are other ways as well. There are different ways. Important that each relationship is unique. Yes. Each relationship. What works for couple A will not work for couple B. But what we're trying to, unfortunately,